When breeding Arabian horses, one of the things that I hope would be a top priority would be to pick stallions that complement the mare in the hopes of producing foals that not only show off both of the parents' good qualities, but hopefully you can even develop foals that outshine both parents, both mental capacity wise and trainability wise. One of the hardest things about being involved with the Arabian industry for so long is, even though there are few far between across the board, marketplace value is put more on fillies than there are on colts. Fillies, after all, have more options. They can be placed as show horses, as recreational horses, and then hopefully as promoted by quite a few of the bigger barns throughout North America. They can also become brood mares and hopefully be able to produce back interest that their owners have placed over them over time. Colts, on the other hand, either have one or two options. Either they can become stallions that are able to produce trainability and great minds into future generations, or they become geldings. Even though there are quite a few geldings out there that are successful show horses and recreational competition horses, there are quite a few that fall through the cracks just because they are a gelding. We wanted to follow the story of one who happens to not. So, what I want to establish day one is I want to establish direction, consistency, and change of direction. This is important to me because in a wild herd, you're going to have at least a couple of horses above one horse in particular, and the horses that can move the other horse's feet are in fact the dominant horses. And I don't like using that analogy to say that, I'm the boss, I'm the leader, and, you just have to listen to me. But in the horse's frame of mind, it's comforting having somebody come in that can tell them, hey, move your feet, and this is what I want you to do. They take a comfort in that because that leader is what's going to keep them safe. So if they don't have to worry and think about what they have to do, they could just trust me to tell them what to do. So right from the beginning, I don't know if you caught that or not, but Indy was having a bit of a time standing still. And what I wanted to establish was, yes, we are on the lunge line. We are getting ready to go, but what I want you to do is just wait for me to tell you when to go. And that kills most Arabs because they anticipate a lot and they love, as soon as, all right, we're out here, let's go, let's do our thing. We're here to do stuff. And we have to kind of tell them, no, you got to actually wait for this. So even though it is this first session, I want to establish that right off the bat because it's easier building those good habits than it is to go back and try to fix them. So we're going back to establishing direction. So both ways, I kind of let him go a little bit and I wait for some kind of relaxation or tension because you can see he's blowing off a lot of steam. In the beginning, he kind of let out a little leap and he's kind of been flinging his head around a little bit. And he's like, okay, so what are we going to do? So the change of direction are for him to think too. Because if I just let him continuously go in one direction, all I'm doing is I'm wearing him out. I don't want to wear him out for the simple reason that even if he gets tired, he's not going to learn anything. So by changing direction, I'm also changing the side of the brain that I'm working him on. Which that's very important, not just for Arabs, but for all horses, because they do operate on a basis of they actually do have different sides of their brain that they recognize different things on. So it's important. So here, and I don't know if you caught that or not, but what's happened here is he got a little too comfortable. He got farther from me. And I have a bridge there that I work with my trail horses on. And then I have a tire there. He actually had enough space to go in between the tire and the bridge, but he said, hey, I've gone the other way. That seems really comfortable. We haven't done this yet. Let me turn around. So what I wanted to establish is no, that doesn't work because more than likely what would happen is he would try that again later. So as you can see here, he is, even though he has turned around at least a few times, he really put a lot of weight into that particular turn. And we have to keep in mind that even though he has done this before, it's been a little while, it's his first time working with me. So even though I'm the trainer, I'm telling him what to do and I'm evaluating him, he is also evaluating me. So even though this is the first training session, he is just as much trying to figure out if I know what I'm doing, if I'm consistent, as I am trying to figure out if he's consistent in what he knows. So, as you can see here, he's starting to kind of relax. So I'm going to go ahead and let him come in. So again, I'm trying to tell him, hey, dude, I like you and you can come in, but you got to come in when I tell you to, not when you want. So you can see me asking him to back up out of my space and him coming in. You realize it's not quite as dramatic as it was the very first time we had this particular discussion. So the good thing is that he sees me as a comfort source and he wants to come in. However, he still has to wait for me to tell him what to do. So now he can come in, and this is when I'm going to kind of switch tactics. So instead of letting him continuously go, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of switch to working with his mental state and give his physical state a break. So, of course, I get to love on him and I get to tell him what a good boy he is. So, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to start off with a whip or a handy stick, and I'm going to go ahead and smack it. So, what's going to happen here is he is going to go ahead and move away from it, and he's going to look at me like I'm nuts because he's like, okay, lady, we just did this whole session where you were asking me to run around and to turn around, and now all of a sudden you're asking me to stand still and swing this thing. So I'll explain that to those of you that are questioning this. So what I want to establish is that there's a difference between asking him to move, and then there's a difference between that and me just moving around him, just swinging things. He can actually discover the difference between me asking him to go forward or away from me and just swinging things around him just nonchalantly. So he has to be able to figure out, okay, she wants me to relax and stand still, and he's very quick to pick this up. But again, you notice, and I put a clip in from both sides, but you'll notice, he's not reacting to that side anymore because he figured out once he stopped, I took that pressure off. So he reminded himself that by stopping, he took that pressure away. The more he moved away from that pressure, I put that pressure and I kept it there. It was consistent, but I made him comfortable by taking that pressure away. So essentially, he has taught himself very quickly that by just standing still and relaxing, not only is he giving himself a break, but he's actually safer because he's standing still. I'm not having to continuously swing that, and it's not hurting him when it does. So I realize it does seem a little bit choppy, but realize I had to take a 30-minute training session, try to squeeze it within 15 minutes. So I'm doing my best here. So we did that exercise, we swung it around, we swung the whip around, and now we are sending him back out. So without asking, because I'm not asking for any particular speed at this moment, I want you to notice there's a huge difference between how he started off before and he started off now. So the fact that he's walking and he's in tune to what I'm asking him to do, that's him. I really didn't do anything to cause him to do that. He did that all by himself. So while I have a second, I'll just add, what kind of horse he is. And he's an Arabian Gelding. He's about 11 years old. He has had formal training before, but has been put out to pasture for a while and has developed some undesirable habits. because of being left unworked for a while. So what I'm doing is I'm not going to try to pinpoint where exactly those problems began. I'm just going to pretty much start over and build from the ground up. And for me, that's actually easier to do than guesstimating, because in this sense, the horses can get where I am asking them to do certain things, and they can actually respect me a little bit more, and I can get to know their personalities and everything a little bit more as well. So what you'll see him do, and you've seen him do it before, but it's more so towards the end here, he stops and he questions a lot more. So what you'll notice, and I think it's coming up here, as he's going around, you'll notice he's turning his upper body, his shoulder towards me. He's looking at me like, okay, are you sure you don't want to turn around now? Because I can turn around really good. So he's learning how to wait for me to tell him. So even though he has a lot of questions and he's arching his body towards me, I'm not going to smack him. I'm not going to act aggressive to that, because it's a very innocent type question. Now, there is a time, this is actually it here, where I'm asking him to go and he's not going. So he's very reactive to body language and to pressure. So all I really had to do was increase that pressure and keep asking, keep kissing, keep clucking. And eventually he was like, okay, I gotta keep going this way, because apparently I really, really misunderstood that cue. And it's not really a misunderstanding on his part. It was more of him testing to see if I would follow through, or if I would just kind of give up and be like, okay, well, I guess we're going to go where you want to go, and give him kisses and hugs. So I let him go around a little bit more to kind of blow off that steam. And you'll notice when he asked that question again, and I just kind of leaned towards him and I tapped that handy stick on the ground, you'll notice immediately he just kept moving off. Like, he's like, okay. He wasn't afraid of it. And I don't know if anybody's going to watch that closely or not, but I never once hit him or tap him at all with the handy stick. That's how sensitive he is. So we're going to go ahead, and I use the last exercise, and I actually use the lunge line itself, because I don't want them having any fear from the handy stick, and I don't want them having any fear from the lunge line. And he's a pretty cool, mellow fellow, so that really is not a problem. But I just want to establish that first session versus that coming back later. And as you can see, there's not much that's bugging him on this side. So again, I'm trying to move around him, and he's like, okay, that means we're going to go. And I'm like, no, you got to stand still. And he's like, okay. So every time, if I stay consistent, every time that he's questioning and pushing into me, every time I'm following through, he's understanding, okay, I can trust her. I can relax and sit back, because I trust her enough to sit still and let her do what she needs to do, and I don't have to question it and guess and take control of the situation. I can relax. And that's essentially what that first particular workout is involved. So here he has a little bit of tension. You can see him kind of clenching and his body kind of, clench. So I'm just going to keep on working him through. And then towards our session, of course, as with everything we've done so far, he's just a mellow guy. So I hope that this has been educational. I hope to see you guys back. And hopefully we will have another episode next week on Indy, the Not-So-Wimpy Gelding's Adventures.